Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in this Zoom session in which we will speak on how to see God everywhere around us. And to start off our session, we will begin with a small mantra and then a nice story. You can chant along if you know the mantra. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasachade Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol. So yeah, let's kick off our session with a nice story. A story that maybe some of you might know. It's about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. They are, of course, well known from all the novels and lately also the videos and the series and the movies. So there's this one story from the books where John Watson and Sherlock, they are camping, and they are at this camping site. They have a little tent and they lay in a nice big open field. And they go to bed, and in the middle of the night they wake up almost at the same moment. And Sherlock says, "Hey, Watson, you're awake?" "Yeah, I'm awake. You too?" "Yes." And Sherlock says to Dr. Watson, "So when you look up, what do you see?" Dr. Watson, he looks at the night sky and he says, "Oh, I see the beauty of this world. Look, I see the stars, I see the Milky Way, I see these constellations. Beautiful." And Sherlock Holmes looks at him, he says, "Is that all?" And Watson thinks, "Oh no, I have to go deeper." So he says, "I see the promise and the potential of so many new worlds that are yet to be discovered and new entities that we're going to find." He says, "Is that all?" And again, Dr. Watson thinks, "Oh no, I have to go even deeper." And he says, "Okay, you know what I see? I see the edges of our universe. And beyond that is the great unknown. Will we ever know what is beyond? Is there God? Where is the origin of all this?" And he goes on philosophizing for 15 minutes about all these topics. And then he turns to Sherlock Holmes and says, "Actually, what do you see?" And Sherlock Holmes says, "I see that our tent is stolen." So that was actually the whole point why he asked, because the tent was not there anymore. Otherwise, they would have seen the inside of their tent, but the tent was gone, so you could see the night sky. So this shows how sometimes we are really good at analyzing things and trying to figure things out. But even though we look so deeply and try to analyze with all our power, we still miss the most obvious thing. And that sort of also happens when we look at what is happening to the world today. Science is, of course, going very deeply within the atom, within all the processes of the human body, within everything that is happening in our solar system and even beyond. But there's one thing which we systematically miss or overlook, even though it's so obvious. And that is that there is God who's behind it all. We see a design, but we don't see the designer. We see order instead of chaos, but we don't see a controller beyond that order. We see laws and cycles, but we don't see the intelligence that installed those laws and is governing those laws. And so we miss the most obvious thing, which is that God is behind everything in this world. And often people say that God and science, they're sort of two complete opposites. But it's not completely true. Actually, science came into existence through all the monasteries and the monks who were trying to figure out how God did it. So the origin of science lies within the monasteries themselves, within religion. And the greatest minds in the world, they were all religions. Look at, for instance, Einstein. Actually, there's this amazing quote of Einstein that I found in the book of Henk Kelman, Citralekha Das, and it's called Intelligence or Chaos. And Einstein says in 1936, he says, everyone who's seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of man. And there's another quote by the British philosopher and scientist Bacon, and he says, a little bit of science leads to atheism, but large quantities of it bring us back to God. So if you scratch the surface and you just look at all these concepts of science a little bit, then you say, we can take God out of the picture, it's not necessary. But then when you go deeper and deeper into science, you see that God is actually there, that there's so much intelligence, beauty, mystery, and you find God again. There's also this quote that says that science and religion, they're as opposed to each other as our thumb and our index finger. They are opposed to each other in the sense that they help us grasp the same thing, but from different sides. And that's actually what is happening, because science and religion, they're sort of trying to look at things from different perspectives. For instance, science tries to improve things, but spirituality or religion is trying to improve people. And then this is from Keshava Swami, by the way. He says this very beautifully. He says, science shows us how or figures out how to do things better, but religion helps us to do better things. Science tries to figure out what is matter, but spirituality tries to figure out what matters. So science is looking at the what questions and is looking at the material world, whereas spirituality and religion, they are looking at the why question, and looking in the spiritual realm, let's say the dimensions of life, looking more purpose-based. And so when we try to measure things in science, we do that with material instruments, let's say. So we have our hammer, we have our thermometer, we have our nails, we have our microscope, everything we have. And with those things, we can find material discoveries. We can, with a microscope, look at material things. So we can, with a thermometer, we can measure the temperature of certain substances. But you cannot say, show me God by these means, because what you try to measure is not material. So it would be the same kind of logic if you give someone some water and it says, figure out the temperature of this water, but I want you to do it with this hammer. How will you ever try to figure out the temperature of water with a hammer? You can never do that. And so with science as it is today, we cannot figure out God and the soul and the deeper questions of existence because we don't have the right instruments for that. And so we need different instruments. And what are these instruments that which we can see God with, which we can prove God with? That is us. It is ourselves. We are the instrument. With our consciousness and with our soul, we can find God again and prove him from our own experience also. But that instrument of our consciousness and the source of our consciousness, which is the soul, is not calibrated right. It is now, let's say, on the wrong frequency or the wrong channel. We want to hear classical music, but it is on a rock channel, rock music. So, of course, with a little bit of tuning, I can perceive the classical music. And so, with a little bit of tuning, I can tune my consciousness to hear or to see God behind everything in the world. And you could say that our consciousness, where our consciousness is, that is how we see the world. For instance, my sister was just pregnant and she got her baby, and now our whole family is in baby consciousness. So we are constantly aware when there's a pregnant lady walking around, or when there's some baby store where we can go in, or everyone is busy with babies in my family at this moment. So it means that our consciousness is invested in the topic babies, and that's why everywhere around us we see babies. There was that experiment of the red car. I'm sure you're also familiar with that. One day, John, let's say, came to the office and his colleague asked him, "How many red cars did you see coming here?" And he said, "Oh, I really wouldn't know. I don't think I saw any." And the next day he comes to work, and again he had the same route. And then his colleague asked him, "How many red cars did you see today?" And of course, because his consciousness was tuned and he knew he's going to ask me tomorrow again, then suddenly he said, "I saw 11," because he could suddenly see. Before he didn't see any of it, and now he saw. So that's the beauty. We don't see the world as it actually is, but we see the world as we are. We don't see the world as it actually is. We see the world as we are, or what our consciousness is calibrated upon, what our North Star is. That is what we see. And there are limits to that. There are limits to even our own thinking. For instance, if I ask you the question, what is that one thing which you can hold with your right hand, but you can never hold with your left hand? I'll let you think. Uh-huh. So they say the one thing you can never hold with your left hand, but you can hold it with your right hand, is your left hand itself. You can only hold your left hand with your right hand, but not with the left hand. You cannot hold your own left hand. So like, to think that way, we have to start thinking differently. Or you have this other riddle which says, what happens once an hour, once a minute, but never in a second? And you can come up with all kinds of answers, but I think before you've heard the answer once in your life, you will never guess. And namely, that is the letter U. The U, because it happens once an hour, it happens once in minute, and it never happens in a second, because there's no letter U in a second. So in order to come to that response, we need to start thinking differently. And that is the same way what is happening now. If at this moment we have trained for so many lives to see matter and to see ways in which we can fulfill our material desires, and we have sort of calibrated our consciousness on matter. So I can only think within the limits and perceive within the limits of matter. But once I break that and I learn to see in a different way, then also a different sort of dimension in the same world can open up. There's this other nice story of two twins that are in the belly of the mother. They are in the womb, and they're asking, um, one little baby is asking to the other baby, "Do you think there is anything beyond this womb?" And the other baby looks at him and says, "Well, what do you mean?" And the first baby says, "So do you think that after delivery after we get out of this womb, that there will be life? And the other baby says, what are you saying? There's no scientific proof for life after the womb. No one ever came back into the womb to tell us. So what are you daydreaming about? This is stupid. And the other baby said, but I think there might be a place outside of the womb where there's more light and there's more space to move, and I can actually stretch my legs, and maybe there are more people that we can meet, and maybe that is a bigger purpose behind being in this womb. And the first baby says, you're ridiculous, you lost your mind, what are you thinking? And the first baby says, actually, there's one more thing. I think that after we leave this womb, we're gonna meet our mother. Our mother? We don't have a mother. It's just you and me. Look, this is it. This is all you see. This is what you get, the baby says. But the first baby says, no, I think it's our mother that sustains us now and that cares for us and gives us shelter. And I actually think that we are within our mother right now. And that when we get out of this womb, that we will meet her. And actually, this is the situation we are in. We have created a womb, artificial womb, through which we cannot look past. And that is a barrier that is called matter. And of course, if we can look beyond that matter, then that whole dimension opens up. So where your consciousness is and what you perceive and how you think, that's all, it starts with choice. It starts with choice. Choice is what brought us to this world, and choice determines what we see. In the beginning, before we came to this material world, we were with God. And because we wanted to know how it would feel like not to be serving Him all the time, or to just be with Him, or, we wanted to know how it would be if we are the center, if we are alone for once, if we can do it ourselves and find pleasure that way. And so through our free will, we chose that we want that. And so God, Krishna, he provided a space for us in which we could try and experience that, which is the material realm, the material dimension. And imagine how that is. For instance, you love someone very much, your partner, and that partner says, on one good day, that partner says, you know what? I want to split up for no particular reason. Everything was fine. It's the love of your life. And your partner says, I want to break up and I never want to see you again in my life. Actually, if I could, I would take this chip in my brain that erases all memories of you so that I could just start over again. How much that would hurt you, right? Because you still love that person so much. And imagine how much love is needed, that you actually are the one providing a house, or a world with fences so high that the person is never able to see you anymore. That you try to create that chip that erases all the memories that person has of you. You are the one to do that, because that is the desire, the heartfelt desire of the other person, how big your love would be. So actually, God's love is that big for us that He did that, that He created a whole world just so we don't have to see Him, or just so that we don't have to engage with Him, even though, of course, He always stays with us and He's visible in every atom in the world. But if we don't want to see Him, we don't have to see Him. We don't have to have a relationship with Him. And that's why He also created the universe in a way that there's a possibility to explain the universe in a way that excludes God from the picture, because He will never force Himself upon us. Because if He will force himself upon us, that will mean that He doesn't respect our free will, and He loves us too much to take our free will. So actually, Yeah, if we don't want to, we will never see him anywhere. And if we want to, we can see him anywhere. And how to sort of cleanse our clouded eyes, our eyes clouded of ignorance, of forgetfulness, of our true nature. Um, uh, how can we do that? The Bhagavad Gita sort of provides us 4 ways in which we can do that. And the first way is very easy, it's sadhana. It's a way to daily sort of recalibrate the internal compass, to daily become aware, not of pregnant women or of red cars, but to become aware of God through meditation, through the chanting of his holy names, of these mantras that sort of clean our consciousness and focus our consciousness upon him. And so where our consciousness is, that will determine what we see and what the senses pick up. And that's why we will see him also around us. So that's the sadhana. The second thing that is really important to cleanse our clouded eyes is a teacher. And a teacher, of course, Srila Prabhupada is the main teacher in the Krishna consciousness movement. He's the Shiksha Guru of everyone and the founder Acharya. And when he landed in London for the first time, you know what is the very first question he got from an interviewer? I'll paraphrase. This interviewer asked him, "What have you came here to do?" And Srila Prabhupada immediately responded. He said, "I came to give you or bring to you what you have forgotten." And his reporter said, "What have we forgotten?" And obviously he had forgotten, otherwise he wouldn't have asked. And Krishna said, "I came to give you God." Beautiful. In the Bhagavad Gita, in 434, let us take this verse. It says, "Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth." And that's very important. They have seen the truth by personal experience. And because they have seen the truth, they can also impart this knowledge onto us so that we, by our own experience, can also see. And this is called Pratyashkavagamam. Very long word. And it means to perceive by own experience. So spiritual teachers, they are like, Keshava Swami says this so nicely. He says, they're like masterminds. First of all, they are the master of their own minds. Second of all, they understand the minds of their own masters, of their gurus. And thirdly, they masterfully can cleanse your mind. And so if we have a teacher that has seen the truth, that has that experience, or that has passed that knowledge, that integrated wisdom, then just by being in his presence or by learning from him, we can also try and experience God in that way, slowly. And third of all, what we need to sort of cleanse our clouded eyes is study. We need to study. If you don't know what a pregnant woman is, you will never see one, right? If you don't know what a car is, you will never see one. You need to know what these things are before you can see them. So you need to know who God is before you can see him in the world around you. And so the Bhagavad Gita explains beautifully. Actually, God himself explains who he is, and who better than him can explain who he is. We cannot come up with any features of God. We don't know. So we should take the words of God himself and through his own eyes try and see him. Actually, Prabhupada, he was once holding a flower, and he was saying that just look at this flower, he said. Just by looking at this flower, one can become 100% Krishna conscious. And the same way goes for instance, if I now take my sister's child, and she has this child sometimes has socks laying around in the room. Every time she goes and she finds a sock, she thinks of her little baby. Or when there's some toys laying around, she immediately thinks of her little baby. The toy is very different than the baby, the sock is very different than the baby, but they have a connection to the baby. And because she can see that connection, she can see the baby, her child, in all of these little things. And so the same goes for God. Krishna tells us how we can see him within this world. And if we understand the relation that Krishna or God has with all these different things in this world, then we can see him very easily by looking at these things around us. So let us just read a little bit from the Bhagavad Gita, from these beautiful things that God says to describe himself. He says, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all aesthetics. Know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire, and I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas. So this is just a few, to name a few, and it's so beautiful because he begins with, I'm the taste of water. And isn't our body made of, what is it, 80% water? And does a day go by that we don't drink water or that we don't need water? We need water for the grains to grow, for our crops to grow. We need water to sustain our own life. It's water that quenches our thirst. And so God says, every time you take a sip of water, just by tasting it, you can experience me. Because in the end, it is God that quenches our real thirst. It is God whom we are dependent on. As we are dependent on water, we are also dependent on him and him providing for us. He's the light of the sun. The sun, when there's darkness, there's fear. Or when there's darkness, there's tamas. But when there's light, there's sattva, there's knowledge, there is insight, there's fearlessness, let's say. Through light, we can see, we can function in the world. Through light, the plants can grow and we have food. So does a day go by that we are not in the light? Mostly not, maybe in Nordic countries or, but no. So every time we perceive light, we can perceive the Lord in all these small things. And he continues in chapter 9. And in chapter 9, he says, it is I who am the ritual, the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors. I am the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So he says, I'm the healing herb. So whenever you go to the doctor and you try to get your disease to go away, so you take these pills, or maybe we go to Ayurvedic doctor or something and we get herbs. Every time you take that, you can experience God and that he's healing you from within. And it's only God that can complete us and free us from a true disease, which is that we are now disconnected to him because we have forgotten our relationship with him. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support and a grandsire. I'm the object of knowledge, the purifier, syllable Om. I'm also the Rig, the Sama, and the Jajur Vedas. I'm the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed. I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality and I'm also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So he's death personified. So everyone's going to meet death, right? So we're all going to meet God. No one can defeat death. No one can defeat God. He'll always be there, and he will be the one waiting for us in the end. And then in the 10th chapter, which is called The Opulence of the Absolute, are even more features mentioned, and very beautiful ones. He says, I'm the super soul seated in the hearts of all living entities. I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Of the Adityas, I'm Vishnu. Of lights, I'm the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon. Of the Vedas, I am the Sama Veda. And of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the force, the living force, consciousness. So is there a day that goes by when you don't use your mind? And Krishna says, I am the mind. So actually, by just having a mind, you can become aware of God in his ability to, or our ability to think and to feel and to wish, to desire, we can experience God. He continues, he says, of bodies of water, I'm the ocean. The ocean gives us a big horizon to look forward to, gives us an idea maybe of what infinity means. If we're in the middle of the ocean and we look all directions, right? Then we see, oh, maybe this is what it means. Infinity in all directions. So what else does it say? Yeah, of purifiers, I'm the wind. And the wind helps for all the scientific, how you say, chemistry happening on the surface of the leaves and everything. The wind helps for oxygen to come our way and to sort of refresh. So every time we feel this refreshment of the wind and we let the wind blow on us, we can experience God embracing our skins. He says, of all sciences, I'm the spiritual science of the self. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Of letters, I am the letter A. So whenever you read a word with the letter A, you can find God there. And so he continues and continues with so many beautiful things. And he ends with this. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So just with a single fragment, like tiny bit of who he really is, he creates all of this. It is sort of when someone says, wow, it's such a beautiful sunset. And then another person says, you like this painting? You like the painting of the, in the sky of all these colors? And the person says, yes. Well, if you like the painting, you should see the artist. And it shows that God, who he is beautiful. So that's sort of the fourth state. So we said, the third state, we need sadhana, which is daily exercise to recalibrate our consciousness. We need a teacher to show us who has seen by experience. And then we need to study to actually know what we're looking for. And fourth, we need one more thing. First of all, to see the sun or light or to taste water, this is universal. It's not that you need to learn a particular language or that you need to study really hard to taste water. No, there are no qualifications actually to see God. We can see this, for instance, in the story of Gargeshwar Das Babaji. He was a Babaji who was illiterate. He could not read a single word. So he couldn't study all these books. He couldn't study the Bhagavad Gita. But still, he was so far in his realization. He was so deeply connected with God, with Krishna, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was one of the most intelligent people, maybe of the century, he was like walking dictionary, encyclopedia. could cite verses like anything. He was like such a big scholar. He came to Gorkishore Das Babaji to take his guidance and to be his disciple. And what does a big scholar have to do with someone who cannot read? Because reading or being scholarly or scientific, this is not the qualification to see God. There's actually only one qualification, and that is that we have love in our hearts. Once we have love in our hearts, love for God, we can see Him anywhere and everywhere. Once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was entering a temple, and he was standing in front of the deities there, and he didn't have his glasses, so he was like a little bit like this, looking at the deities. And one of his disciples saw this, so he thought, oh, let me get the glasses in my spiritual master so he can see the Lord, he can see Krishna on the altar. So he came running and he gave the glasses. And when he put the glass, and he gave the glasses to spiritual master, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, do you think that with these glasses I can see Krishna? Actually, he said, I'm not even here to see Krishna. I'm not here to see God. I'm here so God can see me. And this is so beautiful because we are not the ones who should see God. But we should act in a way that God wants to see us, and He will reveal Himself by His own sweet will and mercy and grace to us so that we can finally see Him by His own revelation. So these are some words and insights that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much and for being here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare. Hopefully it was helpful and inspiring. Hare Krishna.